In this video, we're going to take a look at a red ink by Noodler's, a part of the luxury series Fox. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also, down in the description is a link to the red ink playlist, so if you want to see more, you can find that there. I'm an ink guy, and let's get into the first writing sample done on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. Now, we get a ton of spots that bleed very deep into the page here, and it's worth noting that none of them came through and touched the back of the page, but there's a lot of spotting that's very deep. I do think you could probably get away with using the back of the page, but this looks like it's going to be aggressive. We have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. The extra fine took 4 seconds to dry. The medium took 7. All of it is the same tone. The scrubby for both are showing no color variation or very little. We do see a little actually left to right, but it's not in the writing. In the smear test, you could recover if you smear while you're writing, but I think it's because it's so aggressive. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a fountain pen Revolution Muffed was inked up, used for day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. We have no bleeding but significant ghosting. We have no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade. All of them are the same tone. The extra fine is 11 seconds to dry while the medium's 19 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both give us no color variation. We don't get any in the writing, and the smear test you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down, and then it's put into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And it does look like we have more than one tone that's going on here. It's a very pink-leaning magenta at the bottom, and it's pushing its way up to a very dark red at the top. Now, the one on the right is let dry for 10 minutes before it's put into water, and it looks a bit different. That red is very formed into a line on the bottom and not budging. Now, that pink-leaning magenta pushes its way up, and off on the left side, you see this kind of yellowish tone that's there as well. But we can expect this to be a bit of a resistant ink. The next writing sample was done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. We have a couple of deep ink spots not coming through, not touching the next page, but just to be aware that it's there. I don't think it stops most people from using the back of this paper. We have no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade, no tone variation. The extra fine took 4 seconds to dry while the medium took 6. Scrubby for both give us no color variation. We don't get it in the writing. And the smear test, you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing. Looking at the highlighter, it handles itself incredibly well, and while it's aggressive, it doesn't move when the water touches it later. Now, we do see when the water touched it later on this test that it did move some of the darkest tones, but only out of the way. There is a lot of red still there. Pen Flush did everything that water did and nothing more. It did take Pen Flush to get this out of that eyedropper while I was cleaning it. The 1/3 bleach solution is moving a whole lot more of it. We do see an area that's moved a ton of the red out of the way, and we see a little bit of yellow underneath, which is odd. There's more yellow there than we saw in the chromatographies, but that's what I'm seeing there. I don't know why I was about to say completely removing it. Again, it took Pen Flush to get it out of the pen. The next writing sample is done on Leuchtturm 1917 paper. We have no bleeding, but significant ghosting. We have feathering, a lot of feathering, in the stub, In the extra fine, in the medium, we have a lot of spread. In the stub, in the extra fine, in the medium, we have no halo, no sheen, no shade. Extra fine took 2 seconds, medium took 3. I think this looks gross. Scrubby for both show no color variation. It didn't get any. The smear test, you could recover it. Why would you want to? But you could. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, and the realm of normal was 2.1 to 2.9. Noodler's Luxury Fox has a viscosity of 2.03, so it is a wet ink. If you're interested in how the viscosity tests are done, then there's a link to that video down in the description. The next writing sample is done on a memoranda pad like I would have used in the Marines. This ink is showing itself to be very aggressive on a lot of papers. Now this is an inexpensively produced paper, but I have frequently seen that it largely performs very well with fountain pens. There's a lot of ghosting, a lot of spotting coming through. I don't know about using the back of the page with this, but it didn't touch the page underneath. Now, we get minor feathering in only a few spots on the extra fine. You see it a little bit with Fox. You see it a little bit in the K of brown or the Z of lazy. Not too bad. We have no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. Extra fine took 2 seconds to dry. Scrubby does show some color variation, but it is not there in the writing. And the smear test, you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, and the realm of normal was 13 to 21 seconds. Noodler's Fox has an average dry time of 9 seconds, so it's aggressive, making it dry fast. The last writing sample is done on 20-pound copy paper. Now I use this really because I expected it to just destroy the next page. Now we see an incredible amount of bleeding into and slightly through the paper. This spot here and this spot here both touched the page underneath. Oddly, not anything with the medium. There is no using the back of the paper with this, and it only slightly damaged the next page. We do have feathering in the medium. We have a very minor feathering in the extra fine. The medium spreads to about a broad, while the extra fine spreads to a medium. We have no halo, no sheen, no shade. 1 second to dry. The scrubby shows a tiny bit of color variation. There's none. And the smear test, you can't smear it, so you don't have to worry about it. Instead of finding inks that look like Noodler's Fox, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I decided to go with a blue-black ink from Callifolio Olifants. Now, if you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to those playlists. So what do I think of Noodler's Fox? What I really like about this ink is what it looks like in the pen. It looks like having blood drawn. But that's where it ends. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? The thing is, it's very aggressive. So in order to get a writing experience where you're not hating your paper, I really suggest that you use a dry or very dry fine or extra fine pen to really wrangle in, that's what I'm looking for, the aggressiveness of this ink. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're going to take a look at Sailor's Grenade.